Hello, neighbors.
Hello.
I'm a proud resident of HD2, and I'm very pleased to talk to you guys about ColoradoCare. The Secretary of State has labeled our initiative Amendment 69. I don't know whether that helps or hurts. I think about it a lot. As you know, ColoradoCare is the brainchild of our own Irene Aguilar. A lot of people at HD2 have been promoting this idea. And I just want to point out, it is not a radical notion. We have this very simple proposition. A decent, ethical democracy ought to provide health care for everybody. And when I debate Morgan and his colleagues at the No on 69 campaign, guess what? They agree. They say, yeah, that would really be nice if we could provide health care for everybody. And when I say the insurance companies, the out-of-state insurance companies are ripping us off. They put in proposed premium increases next year, average 17%. They're already charging us $30 billion a year in premiums. They're going to raise it 17%. When I say that, the No on 69 people say, yeah, gee, that's really a shame that they're ripping us off that way. The difference is, those of us arguing for ColoradoCare have a plan to fix it. They want you to vote to keep the status quo. That's the fundamental difference. Our plan, ColoradoCare, as I'm sure you all know, we cover everybody in Colorado. We don't leave 360,000 people uninsured like the current system. We eliminate deductibles so that people can afford to go to the doctor. We let you choose the doctor, the chiropractor, the physical therapist, the lab, etc., not the insurance company. We outlaw those narrow networks that they invented. We definitely have a better idea. There's no question. And when we can get our idea across, we win. We've had a whole series of these things called Oxford-style debates, and here's what happens. You go in there, they say to the audience, okay, this is a vote on whether we should approve ColoradoCare, and the audience votes. Then you have the debate, and then the audience votes again. And every time we pick up 15, 20%. Because when people hear our idea, they know we've got the better idea and we win. So this thing should be a lock, right? But it's not. So I thought what I'd talk to you today is about the progress of the campaign. What's happened in the ColoradoCare, the Amendment 69 campaign, is a classic textbook case of out-of-state moneyed interest trying to direct Colorado voters to vote against their own interests. Because millions of dollars are pouring in from out-of-state insurance companies. They're paying Morgan here to run this campaign. No on 69 is funded by, do you think it's funded by Coloradans? Well, let's see. $1 million came from Anthem Blue Cross in Indianapolis, Indiana. $450,000 so far has come from United Healthcare in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Another $250,000 from Cigna in Hartford, Connecticut. And as I'm told, they've all agreed to commit a whole bunch more, if necessary. And I think they are going to commit more because their polls and our polls both show that we're winning. When we can get our idea across, we're going to win. What they're doing is they're going to try to convince Coloradans to vote for the high-cost plan run by the out-of-state interests with big money. And the whole question in this campaign is whether we, with the better idea, can withstand the power of millions of dollars of misleading advertising. One of the disheartening things for me has been that a lot of organizations in our state that should favor us, that would definitely benefit from a Colorado-based, Colorado-run insurance plan that covers everybody, have come out against us. And I don't know exactly why that is, but I have a feeling it's connected to that $3 million. There's millions and billions of dollars sloshing around Colorado politics, and we have no idea who they're giving it to. And what I'd like to do is ask my friend Morgan here, when he talks, to tell us, where are you spending that $3 million? Who's getting it in Colorado? Did you give any money to the Colorado Municipal League so that they came out against us without even talking to us? Did they get any money? I don't know whether they did or not. I'd like to know, so maybe Morgan can tell us because he works for that group. There's millions of dollars floating around, and it's a classic case. We have the better idea. we're going to have an insurance plan here run by Coloradans in Colorado that covers everybody and saves almost everybody money. They have a system that has been a gravy train for corporations in Indiana, California, Minnesota, and Connecticut. And they're trying to use their money to preserve their monopoly against a better idea. And you know what, I think about it, here's my guess. I don't think they care that much about Colorado. They only have 4.8 million customers in Colorado. I think their real word is that we pass it, and then Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, California, and Florida do it too, and then they're in trouble. So they've decided the place to spend the money and wage the big battle is right here in Colorado. And the question is, are we going to let them get away with it?
Hello.
Or are we going to vote for our Colorado-based ColoradoCare? And let them gouge people somewhere else for a while until the other states wake up. And as I've said, these are nice people arguing for, who are hired by this $3 million and arguing for the insurance companies. I said, hey, you really want us to lose because then you'll get jobs all over the country fighting the plans in the other states. This is going to go on for years. The thing about ColoradoCare is we're the first. Many states want to provide health care for everybody. Many states have had plans that kind of got to the legislature. 2 states got it to the ballot in the 1990s. There are several states, I was just in Michigan, they have 40,000 of the 150,000 signatures they need to get on the ballot next year. Many states want to do this, and they all hope that Colorado does it this year, because that will be the model for them. Because when we demonstrate that we can provide health care for everybody at reasonable cost, we will lead our great country to a destination we should have reached a long time ago. High-quality health care at reasonable cost for everybody. Yeah. Thanks.
And now I'd like to invite somebody to speak up. No on 69 minutes. Morgan English.
Morgan Hartley.
Morgan Hartley.
That's right.
Thank you. Oh, this English was... Sorry. But Morgan, come on up, and we're going to do 10 minutes to speak no on 69.
Perfect.
And then we'll do 10 minutes of questions.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling this morning? All right, I'll try and take this off here. So I always have fun debating TRA. He's a wonderful debater and spokesman, and I want to start by addressing some of the points that he spent a lot of time talking about. First and foremost, let's get the obvious out of the way. Do I work for a campaign that is, at least in part, funded by insurance companies? Yes, absolutely. Surprise, the insurance companies hate this thing. And in this particular case, I'm glad to have their support, because I truly believe that this amendment, despite its good intentions, and you know, I'm a Democrat, worked to elect Democrats all over Colorado. I have worked hard to get progressive actions passed in Iowa and here in California, and I'm a supporter of universal health care at the national level. So why am I standing up here fighting against you now? And more importantly, why is an entire trough of progressive organizations and Democrats, from the governor to NARAL to unions like the pipe fitters, why have they come out so strongly opposed against this amendment? So that's something I want to talk a little bit about right now. You know, every time I go after TR, I like to say that if your opponent spends most of their time talking about you and how evil you are and what a big bogeyman you are, most of the time it's because they don't have a very good case. And in this particular case, in ColoradoCare, I want to applaud TR and Senator Aguilar's sentiment in being able to provide health care for everybody. I really do. And I agree with that sentiment and that spirit. But the problem here, as it is in so many places in life, is resources, money, and structure. If we're going to do universal health care, it's really important that we do it right. It's important that we do it in a way that actually makes health care work and more accessible to a lot of different people. And so I want to talk a little bit about why I don't think Amendment 69 does that. So, first and foremost, this is a 10% tax. I'm sure you all know that. It's 10% tax on payroll, so there's 6.5% that goes from the employer, 3.5% from the employee. And then it's an additional 10% on all of the non-payroll income. So that is, if any of you guys have rental properties, K1, if you own an LLC or a small business, anything that's not incorporated as a C Corp, you'll pay 10% on those profits, in addition to the 4.1 tax that you already have. So that'll give us the highest state taxes in the country, which is 14.1%. Maybe some of you are perfectly fine to pay with that. That's fine. I know people like me will pay more. Some of you may pay less. If you're a senior who lives off a pension, after your $24,000 initial exemption, you will pay that full 10% on your retirement savings. So this is something where certain people, certainly employees that work on an hourly or wage basis are going to pay less. Business owners, independent contractors like myself, are probably going to end up paying more. But the real problem is, Senator Aguilar and the proponents of this had to work really hard to make this work within the Constitution. And so they created a structure, a 21-member board. It's 21 people, 3 that get elected from each district. And these 21 people rule everything in ColoradoCare. They decide what's covered, they decide what the payment is, they decide, for example, whether or not you'll be able to go out of state to access experimental care. And so the proponents will say, yes, that's all going to be covered, it's going to be Platinum Plus, it's going to be great. We have no idea what those mean. There's nothing in the coverage that states what kind of coverage you're going to get. It just states the taxes, and there's sort of 13 loosely defined categories that are in the amendment that the members of the board are required to implement. So we don't actually have any idea what kind of care we'll be getting out of this. But the real problem, the real trap in this entire amendment, even if you think this is a great idea, is this concept of flexibility. And I want to tell you what I mean by that. In 1964, plus or minus 2 years, don't quote me on that year exactly, Medicare was founded. And Congress endowed it with a $64 billion budget. Now today, how big do you guys think that budget is? Any ideas? How much we spend on Medicare in a year? We spend close to $600 billion. It's about 11% of the federal budget. So these programs have a certain entropy. They have an ability to grow, and they tend to grow over time. That's what happens with a lot of government departments. And that is absolutely fine, that's absolutely great as you're modeling the population, as you're dealing with shifts, if you have the flexibility built in to deal with it. But this amendment does not have that. So if I pass this, if we were to pass this very same amendment at the federal level, and all of a sudden we realized, my God, we were off, our projections are totally wrong, we were off by 20%. The federal government would say, no problem. We're going to issue some loans, we're going to make up the shortfall, and we're going to be able to meet the surge of demand. Or if there's a health crisis, a large flood or something like that, that overburdens the system, they'll say, okay, no problem. We have the fiscal flexibility to go out there and do it. This amendment, because of the ability, first and foremost, the requirement, in the state of Colorado that we balance the state budget, the fact that rates cannot be raised without a vote of the people, does not create that flexibility. So, listen, they didn't make these numbers up. Maybe they'll be right for 5 years. I don't know. Maybe they're off 10%, 20%. Maybe it all works great for 3-4 years. But as things we go down the line, and there's perhaps a demographic shift that we didn't expect. Perhaps there's a business downturn that dramatically decreases the tax income like we had in 2008. Or perhaps we get people moving in because care is so expensive all around here, including here in Colorado. We get people moving in with complex conditions that say, I can't get this treated in Nevada, in Utah, in New Mexico. I'm going to come to Colorado, declare residency, and get it done there. So if we're off by even 10%, we're talking about a $38 billion budget here. We are off by an enormous amount, almost $4 billion. And that's enough to bankrupt the state. And my point to you is, that might not happen in the first 4 years. That might not happen in the first 5 years. But as we've seen demographics evolve, as we've seen a lot of unexpected events occur in the course of our history, there are always fiscal shocks that come into place, inevitably. And this amendment is not built to withstand them. There is no structure built in so that if everything doesn't work out exactly as the proponents say it will, and if the numbers work out exactly in their favor, that they will be able to actually finance care or grow demand for care. And that, at the end of the day, is my central problem with ColoradoCare, as a universal health care proponent. And that, at the end of the day, is why everybody from the governor to NARAL to the unions to a number of other progressive organizations, you're going to hear a number of state senators come out against this in the next couple weeks, who are Democrats running here in Denver and around Denver. Nobody's behind this thing. Not a single elected official. Truly. I mean, excuse me, I shouldn't have said
Well,
that.
there's one in this room.
Most elected officials are not behind this thing. And, you know, it's really easy for TR to get up here and accuse us and everybody that we talk to of blatant corruption. But I assure you, we didn't send the Metro mayors any money. We didn't send any of these other organizations any money. We didn't have to. All we had to do is sit down with them and walk them through the amendment. And by the end of the meeting, they said, wow, this is a real problem. This really could bankrupt the state. And so I want you all to vote, think about it. Not just with your hearts, because I'm with you there 100%, but also with your thoughts on how we can make this state strong for the long term. So I want to finish my talk with one last point here. Many of you may not agree with me in this room. That's fine. Great. That's the point of democracy. We have a number of very contentious elections coming up here, not least of which is Senator Bennett. That's going to be coming up here in November. And given that I'm in a room of fellow excellent Democrats, I'd like to encourage all of you to not use this as a litmus test for being a good Democrat. There are people who are against this, there are people who are for it. Regardless of who they are, we need to get Democrats elected up and down the ballot. And so please do not use this as to say, hey, he doesn't support ColoradoCare, he must not care about people, because that's not true. There's some clear problems with this amendment, and you're going to hear a number of your Democratic elected people come out against this in the next couple weeks. Please continue to support them, because it's really important that we get Democrats elected up and down the ballot. So thank you.
If you'll stay nearby, and if
Sure.
TR would like to come up, we can take about 10 minutes of questions if people have questions on the amendment. We'll start up front and work over that. Yep.
Like myself, there's a number of people in this room that are over 65 now and are on Medicare.
All right. Use the mic.
Yeah.
Use the mic, you know.
Yeah.
I can't hear
You
you.
might reach all the way back.
Like myself, there's a number of people in this room, I believe, who are over 65 and are on Medicare. And what I was going to say is that I've had Denver Health for decades, has been my provider. But shortly after, well, a few years ago, after I was able to get on Medicare, I continued with Denver Health, but then it got so that they're a public hospital, like CU Medical School is. It became difficult to get an appointment. I couldn't get through on the phone, long time wait in the walk-in clinic. And so I just, since I was on Medicare now, I said, well, I'll just switch I'm on Kaiser.
Sure.
And I get my appointments fairly quick now. Okay, so fairly decent and so forth, so that although I do have to pay higher co-pays and stuff like that than I did at Denver Health, because it's a public hospital. So I think it's good that everybody be covered. The question I have here is, how is accessibility? Yeah, I should have stated that from first. My question is on accessibility. How is accessibility going to go forward under whatever proposal you and 69 is going to take place? That's accessibility is important.
Gio, you want to answer?
Well, as the people here know, ColoradoCare covers people from birth, or really 9 months before your birth, up to age 65, and you'll stay on Medicare. Almost everybody who's on Medicare has to buy a supplemental plan or a Medicare Advantage plan. You're on Medicare Advantage, Kaiser, right? Yeah. Which is a sweet deal. I'm sure you know this. Under Medicare Advantage, the private companies cover you with Medicare benefits, and the federal government gives them a 14% subsidy for doing it, which means I'm on Medicare Advantage. You're all paying for my plan, and I'm grateful, but guess what? That's ending. they took that away. Both the Republicans and the Democrats have agreed to end that. But we don't cover Medicare. We will probably provide a Medicare supplement plan, which is an expensive addition for most people. You'll stay the same. As for accessibility, my certainty is that lots more medical providers will come to Colorado when we have ColoradoCare. The reason I know this is, you know, I'm known around the country as a guy who's into universal health care, and people know that I'm now working on ColoradoCare. I get 40, 50, 60 emails a week from doctors saying, how can we do this? How can we get this? Because doctors love this idea. Doctors love the idea that everybody's covered. That's why they went to medical school, to provide health care when people need it. They love the idea that everybody who walks in the door of their office or their hospital will have insurance, which is not the case today. Doctors are going to love this plan. I was just out on the western slope and said our business plan calls for us to pay about 150% of Medicare payment levels, and the Gunnison Valley Hospital said, God, that's better than any contract I have now with the private insurers. So I think we're going to have an influx of medical providers. I think we'll probably use more PAs, physician assistants, and stuff. So I'm pretty sure that demand will go up. There's no doubt about that, because all those people who are sick today who can't get care will be able to get care. I think that's a decent thing. And supply will go up too, so I don't think we're going to have an accessibility problem.
And no narrow networks.
I'm sorry, what?
No narrow networks.
No narrow networks. You've got a much broader choice.
So to answer your question, first and foremost regarding the Medicare issue, yes, you will continue to stay on Medicare, so you will continue to pay your Medicare Part B premium in addition to this new 10% tax. That's an important thing, I think, for some seniors to consider. Additionally, in terms of accessibility, it's really easy to get a sense of what this is like. You can go on to the website to say any Canadian state will post the wait times for that.
17 days.
It depends on the
Say for the USA.
operation. There are certain, so it depends on the operation. Things like hip replacements, etc., will take a lot longer. But despite, you know, people just say numbers, because there really is a huge spectrum. And maybe you guys are okay with that. Like, that's fine. I'm not here to argue about that. That's one, you know, sort of one of the pros and cons of the universal healthcare system.
People can't go to the
that I
doctor
would
if
be-
they've got the
Okay, for a debate, sir. Welcome to join me on stage.
Can I address your main remark?
I'm not done yet.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll put a different structure after this question. We'll tighten it up here.
And so the question of accessibility is, you know, the proponents want to paint this picture of, yes, everyone's going to get care, and all the doctors are going to love this, and providership is actually going to go up. Well, we know that's not true, because they are actually going to lower rates. And we've talked to literally hundreds of doctors across the state that are working with us to say, this would absolutely kill my practice. I would not be able to continue doing this given these rates.
Why? Now this is going to get way out of hand if we just sort of do it. So I'm going to keep doing what I was doing about moving back with the questions. And I'm going to get to Chris next. And let's try to keep the questions under a minute and the answers under a minute each. Is that okay?
Yeah.
How's that?
All right. Hello. Okay. I am also on Medicare and Medicaid. I'm not 65, I don't think. But so my question is similar. It's Medicare, but it's about a statistic you cited. Medicare covers the elderly and disabled. Many of them don't work, and it's expensive for the state and for the country. $600 billion, I think you mentioned, because it's subsidized by the government, because a lot of the participants in Medicare can't participate themselves. So I just want to get a clarification on how the Medicare $600 billion works with your argument. Sure. Thank you.
So the important thing to understand is that this amendment doesn't change a single thing about federal programs. It is a state amendment. The 21-member board would subsume the, what is I believe currently $13 billion that comes in here from Medicaid. So that's how we get that $38 billion budget, the 25 plus the 13. And so if you're concerned, if you have any concerns about the structure of Medicare or Medicaid and how that money is spent, this doesn't really fundamentally change that at all.
Yeah.
Answer that?
Medicare I'm on Medicare. It has the highest satisfaction rates of any insurance plan in the United States. It's very efficient. It's an efficient payer. It's a low payer. It has a fundamental structural problem. Medicare starts, it's either for disabled people or it starts at age 65. If you think about it, that's the most expensive medical population there is. And we've restricted it to the most expensive population. If Medicare covered everybody, so that a bunch of healthy 23-year-olds were paying in every month and didn't go to the doctor, it would be fine. It would be sustainable for 100 years. That's the way to design an insurance plan. That's why we all pay fire insurance, and only 1 in 8,000 houses burns down, and the insurance company has enough money to support. If we only let ramshackle old houses storing kerosene buy fire insurance, the premiums would go way up. So this is what ColoradoCare does. We cover everybody. We have a broad risk pool, and therefore we're going to work better than Medicare in my view. Sorry.
And I apologize for being so truncated, but we're trying to get through a lot of questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, your name is Morgan.
That's correct.
You're a very nice young man. You're kind of a jittery speaker, I noticed. And that makes sense because you said a number of things that you should know are completely untrue. First of all, this amendment to the Constitution does say guaranteed care. It provides 11 specific categories of health care that become a right of the Colorado citizen.
Question?
From prenatal care, yes I do, I have a minute too, so can I reset my minute? You right? No. That 11 specific categories from prenatal to end-of-life care, everything in between. It's guaranteed, can't get taken away. Like the insurance companies can take away your choice of provider and squeeze you into a network. And insurance companies, you get only the health care that they say you should get, and they allow you to get on their terms. We have to flip them around. You have no aim. You have no proposal for universal health care in Colorado. And that's so odd because you gave it such lip service. Finally, my question is this. You said that you could bankrupt the state when the co-op is a political subdivision of the state. It's no more a threat to the state's budget than the city of Denver's budget is to the state budget. They're completely separate. And finally, don't you think it would have taxing authority? It has the ability to increase taxes by a vote of all the citizens, whereas the insurance companies can raise your premiums, which are the most regressive tax of all.
Can you ask the question?
This, I think, was the question.
Right. What is the insurance industry's plan to provide universal health care coverage to all Coloradans and stop the deduction, the premium rate increases that at 17% will double by the time ColoradoCare is implemented?
Well, that's a silly question. The insurance industry didn't have a plan for that. That's not their job.
What is your plan for universal
Yeah,
coverage?
you
Let's
said-
hear it.
So I'm glad you feel better. I want to say that absolutely this is a political subdivision of the state. This is in the state constitution. If there is a budget shortfall to make it up, then the state is accountable for that budget shortfall. It is the state's money that it has to spend.
No. It's a separate entity. It is
I'm
not
not
an
here to debate with you,
agency
sir.
of
You're
the
welcome to
state.
come talk to me afterwards.
Well, you're right. I can't stand it.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Noel's question at the end was, what's your plan to provide universal coverage? And we heard the answer. They don't have a plan. So our choice in November is between a plan based in Colorado that covers everybody and healthcare plans in Minnesota, Indianapolis, Connecticut that leave hundreds of thousands of people uninsured. Which one are you going to vote for?
I love trying again. I'm going to let you know we're not going to have time to get to everybody. Sorry. But we'll go over here.
My question is, one of the things that I have experienced personally has been the unintended consequences of Obamacare and insurance rises being squeezed out. All of a sudden, nothing that I need is covered, or what are the unintended, or I know that we can't really think of what are the unintended consequences, but with universal coverage, will certain things be squeezed out or not covered? I mean, how do we, and how does the insurance company plan to stop squeezing the little people out of their coverage?
What's going to be covered, we have ironclad guarantees on that, and here's why. As I think you know, we're operating under a waiver provision that's in the Affordable Care Act. It says if the state sets up a plan that covers as many people as Obamacare with coverage as good as a silver level plan, you can do what we're doing. They encourage state experimentation. If we don't meet those standards of coverage, they'll shut us down, and we'll go back to Morgan's system, the one he wants you to vote for. So we have absolutely solid guarantee that what we're going to cover has to be there, or we won't get the waiver. So I don't think we have to worry about that. When I debate on 69, they say, they won't cover your kid's sprained ankle. They won't cover your sore throat or your asthma. Yeah, we will. We'll cover everything the silver plan does. As a matter of fact, if we have extra money, our goal is to cover what a platinum plan covers. That's slightly better. We won't cover Botox, breast enlargement, and hair replacement, sorry. But we have an absolute guarantee that we'll cover everything that you need.
I thank you for that question, because that's ultimately the reason that I'm up here. The Obamacare, I'm a member of Obamacare. I bought my plan on the marketplace. I'm an avid rock climber, and so I've used it perhaps a little more frequently than most people my age. And what I will say is that part of what happened with Obamacare is that because it required everyone to be covered, regardless of pre-existing conditions, which in my view is an excellent thing. I'm willing to pay a lot more per month to make that happen. It did drive up costs, and because of special districting and the way that providership is held out, that drove up costs a lot. And so I think that, again, this is an example of where we can have excellent intentions and put together a plan that if it's not fiscally sound, will not last long term. The co-op crumbled last year. It crumbled because it had problems with its finances, and I think that we're going to see similar things here, where the state is not able to meet its demands over the long term. And again, I'm talking 10 to 15 years here, but this is something that I want you all to remember. We're putting in the state's constitution. Good.
Right, maybe 3 more. We'll do John, and then I'll do 2 in the back.
I'll try to project a little bit. I really have a question. It's a real question, not a set position. Obamacare had put in place, I thought, a maximum amount of profit that insurance companies could take. That they had to say a certain amount of their money went to cover, to give people money for stuff they need, payments for their claims, and so there was a profit. So if they're increasing 17% next year, I presume that must be, there's some profit in there, but a lot of it's in order to put money in place to cover people's claims. And so I'm wondering about that. Why is that not true, and how is it the insurance companies are ripping us off?
The reason that premiums are going up, much to my chagrin, is that the more people are using care. Point blank. That's why more people are using care. The care that they ask for is often more complex. And there are certain cases, absolutely, because they need it. That is true. And I'm glad that they get it. And there are certain cases that will cost an insurance company upwards of $1 million a month. Really complicated, either nervous diseases, cancers, things like that. Now, because of this wonderful thing that we've done, which says you have to keep them on your plan, the insurance company is paying for that and making it up. And that's wonderful. That's great. But because of that, it's getting passed along to everybody.
Obamacare didn't limit profits. What it limited was the amount of the premium dollar they can spend on so-called administrative expenses, and it's limited to 20%, which is 4 times what any other insurance plan in the world spends. So 20% of premiums can be administrative costs. That includes profit. If you raise premiums 17 or 20%, that's all the more profit you can charge. So there's no limit on their profits. And the reason that they're raising premiums 17% is because they keep raising those administrative costs. They spend on advertising, marketing, bonus trips to Hawaii for the salesmen, tens of millions of dollars for their CEOs and executives, and $3 million that they're sloshing around Colorado politics to get you to vote against a plan that will save you money.
We'll go with Ryan over here and that lady there. And I should know your name. I'm sorry.
You may not be able to answer this question, but I will ask it anyway. In 1956, 60 years ago, the day I turned 21, I proudly went to the courthouse and registered as a Democrat. Over the years, and I came from a family of Republicans and still have a family of Republicans, but the Democratic platform and the things that the Democrats provide for our communities and the world at large are so much better. My brother always said, what do you believe in, entitlement? No. I believe in what we have as progress. So the question that I have for you, which is probably not answerable, do you not see this as a thing that the Republicans should be doing, fighting against our proposition to have health care for all?
Well, the Republicans are fighting against this, but they've joined the governor, they've joined a number of Democratic elected officials, they've joined the unions, they've joined women's choice groups, they've joined progressive organizations across the state. And so all of us have come together to say, hey, like, we may have divergent opinions on other things, but we don't believe that this is a good idea for Colorado.
Well, look at the opponents of Amendment 69. The Koch brothers, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, Cory Gardner, and all the Republicans in the legislature. But we're not making this a partisan Democratic-Republican split. This is a question about where your values are. If you think it's right that we provide health care for everybody in a low-cost system run in Colorado, vote for it, whatever your party. If you think it's right that we leave 360,000 people with no insurance and pour tens of millions into the profit pool of out-of-state insurance companies, well, then vote no. And you and the Koch brothers can preserve the status quo.
I just, to that coalition, I want to add really quickly, Governor Hickenlooper, Senator Michael Bennett, Representative Perlmutter, senators from our state house, NARAL, because they're concerned this would affect women's choice.
No. Hick is not opposed. Hick says he has the greatest respect for Irene and the rest of the people working on this plan. He says he's not sure this is the year to pass it, but he's not against it.
That's it.
And Elliot and others are going to save their questions for these guys. Are going to hang around after?
Yeah.
Will you? Okay, great. But Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, could you, the ColoradoCare advocate, I think your name is, respond to Morgan's earlier point about, that he made in the first 2 minutes, about the long-term financial stability of ColoradoCare and its ability to deal with unexpected changes like demographic changes and recessions?
Yeah, so the finances of ColoradoCare, we get $13 billion from the federal government. We raise another $25 billion through this 10% tax. That's a $38 billion program. Last year, Colorado spent $43 billion on healthcare. So how can we do this? How can we do the same thing for less money? The major reason is the 20% administrative costs. Our administrative costs are going to be in the range, well, like Medicare. We're going to work like Medicare for all. Their administrative costs are 3.8%. I think ours are going to be around 4%. So that's a huge saving. But let's say the costs go up higher than we think they will. There are two things you can do. You can go back to the people of Colorado and say, well, you raised the tax. Do you like it enough to raise your tax? If not, we shut down and we go back to the system that Morgan's defending now. All we're saying is, let's try this. We're pretty convinced that Coloradans can run this system better than those executive boards in Minneapolis and Indianapolis and Hartford, Connecticut. I'm certain we can. Let's give it a shot. It'll save us all money, it'll do the right thing, and if it doesn't work, they'll shut it down.
Yeah, I want to point out that TR didn't really answer your question there. His response was, well, it might not work, and in that case, we'll just shut it down. And the fact is, this is in our Constitution, so they don't have that luxury. And so, you know, I think what TR just proved is, like, even the proponents don't know whether or not this is going to work, and we're putting this massive healthcare system in our Constitution. And if their numbers are off by even just a little bit, I think it really could destabilize the state economically, and certainly the state government.
So let's not put it as a right in our Constitution.
All right. Thank you
That
both
was
so
sarcasm.
much.
That was sarcasm.
I'm going to put you on the spot for just a second, because